All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for joining us on this emerging technologies panel. So we've talked about AI, we talked about VR. I'm going to talk about spiders and why spiders are the future. So this is a interesting spider that actually moves by rolling. What's interesting about the spider is that it's inspired a number of different types of robots. So what's happening in the world right now is, like, with all these advances in 3D printing and miniaturized mechatronics, sensors, CPUs, processors, we're able to create whole new types of robots to do all kinds of different things. This particular robot is just a proof of concept, but it demonstrates a kind of robot that could go into disaster recovery scenarios, places where humans can't go, and see what's going on. But this was impossible a few years ago. Like, it's now possible because we can 3D print most of these components, put in basically mini supercomputers into them, and equip them with sensors. You have other kinds of robots we're seeing today that are inspired by other animals. Like this octopus gripper allows us to create this mechanical structure that allows you to pick up almost anything. You have other robots that are designed to be strong and flexible and resilient to go into other disaster scenarios where you need to maybe move heavy objects. But the problem with all these robots is that while the mechanical technologies have gotten smarter, the onboard computing has gotten smarter, the robots are actually pretty dumb. They're still not intelligent. So what I'm here to talk about today is what we're seeing emerging in the world around artificially intelligent systems. So what happens, you have these powerful processors, powerful sensors, powerful miniaturized actuators in the world that can capture all this information, stream it to the cloud, send it back. What happens? Now, whenever you talk about putting AI and robots together, the first thing you hear is the fear. Are we creating Skynet? Are we creating Terminator? Are we creating this? Are we creating that? You got Elon freaking out about the superintelligence is going to wipe us all out. There's a lot of uncertainty. If all these robots come that are super smart, what happens to our jobs? And finally, a lot of despair, right? If all the jobs are gone, what's going to happen to us? Are we going to become some sort of cannon fodder in some rich person's game? Are we just going to be spending our lives working, doing nothing? So I've heard all these concerns. I've spent the last few years thinking about it, and I have a much more optimistic view of where the future is going, and that's what I'd like to share with you today. So I'm George Babu. I'm founder of Kindred. Started the company about 4 years ago when we started seeing what was happening in AI. All the smartest people around me were getting really excited about what deep learning was doing, what reinforcement learning was doing, and what you can do with 3D printing. So let's take a step back. Forget about the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Let's take a global perspective and think about what is happening around the world. I want to illustrate with my own life journey. So this is my hometown in South India, Kanyakumari, if anyone's been there. It's a little fishing village. It's where my grandparents are from. In the 70s, my grandfather got curious about what was happening outside his little fishing village, and he went to Dubai. So Dubai, any Dubai folks from here? No? No Dubai people? Wow. Okay. So this is Dubai in the 70s. Dubai in the 70s was a desert, camels, little malls with those cans, and that's where I was born. Now, what I didn't realize at the time when we were in Dubai was that in 30 years, we had seen a nation form. A lot can change in 30 years, right? You look, this is Dubai in the late 70s. This is Dubai today, 30 years. Dramatic transformations. So things can change really fast in the world. Then during the Gulf War, my parents got curious about what it felt like in frigid subarctic temperatures, so they went to Canada, and we discovered snow and cold, and it was crazy. But in university, I also discovered a company called BlackBerry. I needed a job. Nortel didn't accept me. I got rejected, so I ended up at BlackBerry in the late 90s. And I had no idea why anyone would want to have mobile communications. Why would you want to communicate with your people when you're moving around? I had no idea. I have a big PC with a big screen. But BlackBerry, as soon as I touched the device, I get so excited about it. I spent the next 10 years there. And what it showed me was that 200 people anywhere in the world could dramatically transform what you can do when you take technology, package it into an incredible product that changes how people communicate with each other. So that got me excited. I joined there when there was less than 200 people, and I left. It was 15,000 people in 2007. The iPhone came out. I left, not because the iPhone came out, but it turned out to be good timing. I left and went back to school, started another company. We sold that to Salesforce. After Salesforce acquired us, I discovered California. in Silicon Valley. So we moved here about 4 years ago. And what California has really taught me is that you can take technology, you can take emerging science, engineer it to work at scale for billions of people, use entrepreneurial, commercialism, capitalism, venture capital to bring it out to all those billions of people, and all in the service of improving the lives of humans. So this is what gets me excited. So when I think about AI, I think about robotics, I think about all these things. I don't think about the dystopian scenarios. They are potential scenarios, but I think about how do we make people's lives better. So when we started, and so Elon Musk is one of the greatest examples of that, right? He took electric battery technology, packaged it into a beautiful car that excites everyone who drives it, and has now transformed how we think about transportation. We don't think about gas or hybrid anymore. Everyone's buying electric cars, right? He did it single-handedly through science, engineering, commercialization to improve the human condition. So that's what we do at Kindred. At Kindred, when we saw this AI happening, we thought, okay, everyone's doing AI in the cloud, everyone's doing AI on devices. What if you had this machine that had sensors in it, could interact with the world, capture those interactions, and then train deep learning nets or reinforced learning nets? What would happen? And that's why we got started. We want to create more intelligent systems to make things cheaper so that everyone could enjoy a better quality of life. We wanted to create Rose the robot. You know, we spent a lot of time at home cleaning up after my kids. My daughter's here. My son is somewhere else, but you know, they make a big mess. We wanted to create a robot to solve those problems, but the science wasn't there yet. The technology wasn't there yet. But people wanted it. We went around the country, talked to hundreds of people, showed them many different use cases of what a robot could do for them in the home, and they wanted it. People really, really wanted it, but the science wasn't there yet. But we also discovered something else. We discovered that how people shopped was changing. How people purchased stuff was changing, right? There's a lot talked about e-commerce versus going to stores, but it's more than that. It's much more than that. People are just buying stuff, but in many different ways. Sometimes you might want things delivered to your home. Sometimes you want to just walk into a store and walk out with it and not get thrown to jail. Sometimes you want to walk into a store. This is a company in Hema in China. You walk into the store, you scan the barcode. It gives you recommendations. It lets you order it. It tells you who farmed this product. But you can order it and have it sent to your home within 30 minutes. So by the time you get home, this live lobster will be in your house. Hopefully not moving around, but it'll be in your house. Right? You have people, you can go to the store, maybe they don't have something. How many times does that happen? Lots of times, right? But now you can go to screens and look at all the inventory and order from online. So what's happening is, in VR, of course, we gotta talk about VR. So Alibaba is doing some VR shopping experiences where you can, again, learn more about the product. So what's happening is how people are shopping is changing, and all of it is enabled by technology. So Sona Chawla, the CEO of Kohl's, has talked about how retail is being rebirthed. We can buy things in new different ways. All of it is enabled by today's technology, and that's exciting. However, there's a problem. The problem is all of our new shopping habits has led to a massive shortage in labor. So it turns out, if you look at a lot of the work that happens across the world, there's actually a shortage of laborers in many jobs. Truck driving, warehouse workers, automotive manufacturing, mining, you name it. Every one of these industries, where we worry about jobs going away, there's actually a massive shortage of jobs. There's actually a shortage of 600,000 people in the US alone that are needed for the e-commerce industry that just don't exist. Right? So we thought, okay, so we know about AI, we know about robots. Could we develop something around it? So in our office in San Francisco, we started prototyping a number of different artificially intelligent robotic systems to try to do the work of humans. Could we do some of the work that's going unfulfilled in fulfillment centers today? And so we created this robot. It looks like a regular industrial robot, but it's powered by artificially intelligent systems. So this robot does what seems very simple. It picks up whatever object you put in front of it, it can pick it up, scan it, determine which order it belongs to, and puts it to that order. But this took 3 years of development into teleoperation technologies, training systems, machine learning pipelines, lots and lots of experimentation, but it's working now. And it's kind of like, it's shown us what's possible with all the new technologies available for us. Now, robots are not very smart. This robot is doing something that seems very simple, but it's very hard, but it needed to be taught. And the way we teach robots, what we figured out, is to use human teachers. So we have people in a call center in Toronto that are available to help the robot whenever it gets stuck. So it'll try to recognize an object, it'll try to pick up, a bag or a box or what have you. But if it needs help, it'll call a human for help. And just over the regular internet, a human can get connected to the robot, help the robot. It sees what it sees, sees what the robot sees, and then the robot continues doing its work. And the robot now learns. So rather than static robots that are programmed to do one thing and keep doing the same thing like you do find in a regular factory, these robots keep learning, and they're constantly generating new data, they're constantly learning new skills, constantly learning how to handle different situations. And this is opening up a whole new avenue of possibilities. So this is an example of the brain, right? So this is what, once we've trained it with days and days of data that's collected, the robot will then try to predict a whole bunch of different places to pick up the objects, and then we'll try to pick it up. Another new powerful technology, I don't know if we've talked about it much at this conference, but reinforcement learning is one of the most powerful technologies that has emerged. What we do is we can tell the robot what is a positive action, what do you want to do? Okay, so I want you to pick up this object, you're going to get points if you pick up the object. If you don't pick up the object, you're going to lose points. So the robot tries to maximize those rewards, and it tries to maximize how many points it's getting. And it remembers, using deep learning, what were good actions and what were bad actions, right? So it remembers all that. So what this is allowing us to do is that we can have robots running by themselves, constantly trying to pick up objects, and try to teach themselves how to pick up these objects. We don't need to train them anymore. We can just collect data autonomously. We're also able to do pretty complex things like teach the robot how to move. So traditionally, you would program every joint in this robot on how to get to a particular point. So in this case, we're trying to get to the red dot. What we can now do is, within 2 hours, by just setting the reward function, we can teach the robot how to move all its joints to get to the point. So this dramatically cuts down how much effort it takes to create pretty complex motions, like moving, walking, manipulating. And so what's the point of all this, right? Well, if you think about your home, think about all the different configurations in your house. Where do you put your shelves? Where do you put drawers? Where do you put your laundry machines? Every house is different. If you had to program behaviors for every single house, you would never have a home robot that would actually do anything. It would take forever. This allows you to tell the robot, you will succeed when you empty my dishwasher, and you will not get paid if you don't empty my dishwasher, and it will learn it over time. And like all good machine learning systems, it accumulates learning across all the different sensors and robots, right? So very powerful, you can accelerate very fast what the robots are capable of doing. Now, artificial intelligence. We've heard it about 100 times. The name of the conference is Imagine AI. Is it hype? Gartner says we're at the peak of the hype cycle. Yes and no. I disagree. So I think, let's look at what's happening fundamentally. Processing power has surpassed Moore's. We're not on Moore's law anymore. We're at like 1.5 times Moore's law. We're accelerating in all kinds of different verticals. The GPU power especially is growing dramatically. So the compute is dramatically changing what we can do, right? The amount of money going into artificial intelligence is insane. There's $6 billion of venture funding that goes into all kinds of AI. Now, AI is a general purpose technology, so whatever someone improves, whether it's for image recognition on a social network, that translates across all kinds of use cases, from medical to robotics to self-driving vehicles. So all this money is accelerating our learnings about AI across all applications, and that's tremendous. And you look at how much the top 3 companies are spending close to $1 billion on machine learning engineers alone. Think about that. Every year, $1 billion gets put into people that are, and then $6 billion gets put in companies, and that's just growing. It's just the beginning, right? What else is happening? This is a wonderful thing that's happening. Everything is open. We are publishing all this data. All this knowledge, the data, the frameworks, papers, this is wonderful. So we can all leverage this. So yes, there's a lot of hype, but it's based on something real. It's based on something transformative that's happening in front of us, and that's very open, which is unusual. So now you're seeing AI pop up in all kinds of applications, right? In drones, in sailing vehicles, in spaceships. And I gotta wrap up quickly in self-driving vehicles. I'm gonna talk about very quickly, why is all this important? So let's take a step back. Are the jobs going away? Are we gonna end up in a dystopian future? I don't think so. Right now, just about 1 billion people live the lifestyles we live. There are 7 billion people on the planet, and there's gonna be another 4 billion people coming. We live longer. Today's life expectancy is 80 years. dramatically changed in the last 100 years, is going to grow even higher. The average life expectancy in 20, 30 years is going to be 90 to 100 years. So you're going to have a lot of people, and then you have 4 billion people. That's 3 Indias being added in the next few decades. So you have more people that are living longer, and they're going to be richer. They're all going to be buying stuff. So you have more people living longer, getting wealthier, all connected, all want to experience all the wonderful things we get to experience, and there's going to be fewer people working. Guess what? There's less people working, and they're doing less. So what does this mean? Tremendous opportunity, AI and robotics enabling new ways to do things at a fraction of the cost, and global markets with billions and billions of rich people that are going to need these services. So with that, I'm going to leave you with a few resources for your education. A couple of great books, if you haven't read them. The Master Algorithm. It'll give you a landscape of all the different types of artificial intelligence, all the different tribes of AI, from statistical methods to other methods. Our Robots Ourselves talks about how, for the foreseeable future, there'll be human-machine hybrids that are doing most of these work, but in new ways, in cheaper ways. Prediction Machines is a fabulous book. It's written by one of my co-founders, corporate strategy prof at University of Toronto. He talks about how to think about AI when it comes to business. So how do you re-engineer processes? Where do you put in AI? When should you use AI? When should you have humans do the work? Great book, quick read, highly recommended. And finally, if you want to get into the details, Fundamentals of Deep Learning, phenomenal book that talks about machine learning as well as reinforcement learning. And we're hiring, so kindred.ai/careers. Thank you for that.